Everybody online has been bragging about running up to 50, maybe 100, 500, 5 billion. That's a bit exaggeration. That's a bit of an exaggeration there, but a bunch of AI agents. As I was listing those numbers, I bet some of you were already like, he's talking about AI again, isn't he? That's right. People are bragging. They're going nuts. Look at all these agents I have. I actually have 2,000 employees worth of work coming pouring in and all this. But here's the question that no one wants to answer. Is any of that actually making the work better? Or are we just creating faster? And then I actually was talking to Mike about this before, and this immediately made me think of, is this the whole sort of cliche thing of slow is smooth and smooth is fast? Is that what's happening here? So we're going to be talking about, are you using AI too much in this episode? And if this sounds interesting to you and you want to support the show, you can go and check us out on that Patreon, leave a review or rating on your podcast app, join us in our Discord server, or share this with your friends. And if you want to learn how to code and get some courses in you, and you're looking at some back-end technology, some front-end technologies, and you want to have an interactive media player code editor help you do so, you can do so on Scrimba. And they have a pro plan that you can get up to 20% off via our link. And that link is going to be in the show notes and episode description with full details on how it works in the show notes on htmlallthethings.com. Okay, Mike, you wrote this episode. For some reason, didn't breathe throughout that whole episode, throughout that whole little intro part. So I need to breathe now. And so please, sir, take it away.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, we've honestly been seeing this over the past several months, I would say, where influencers online, AI influencers online, are talking about how they're spinning up these agents to do every part of the workflow in like they're like essentially an entire company's worth of agents and an entire like development department worth of agents, and this one person managing all those agents. And they're talking about how they're managing to spin up these projects all in parallel and handle the marketing all in parallel and the customer outreach and the support, everything. And it sounds amazing. Like it sounds like they've unlocked this like epic workflow. AGI is here, all that jazz. But I'm kind of calling bullshit on it. And I don't have any like exact like pointing fingers at like this person that's talking bullshit. I'm not going to be bringing up specific examples. But what I am going to say is that I just haven't seen any of those strategies be effective in real life. And it all seems very surface level to me. Like, I think the idea of spinning up a bunch of agents and getting stuff done in the immediate sounds really cool, and even might be very cool in the first hour that you're doing it. But from my experience, and I've tried to do some of these tasks, I haven't gone super crazy. Honestly, I can't imagine spinning up 100 agents. First of all, the cost would be insane. Second of all, like just the context spread would be ridiculous, like to manage that. And I haven't done that far, but I have spun up quite a few agents at the same time, and I've worked on multiple projects at the same time. And I don't see the benefits. Like I don't see the point of that, because just like with everything else in life, we kind of suck at multitasking. Some people are slightly better than others, but overall we're designed to be kind of focused, and we're supposed to work on one task at a time, or a couple of tasks maybe at a time, and spread ourselves a little bit like that. But having 100 tasks and trying to maintain context on all those tasks and reviewing them, just it seems like way more work than like just hiring people and getting them to do the task. Like it doesn't make any sense to me. So I want to talk about a little bit about these these situations, and a little bit of what I've seen from people talking about these agent swarms, as I like to call them. And then I want to talk about what I think is the right approach, right? What I've seen working for other people that I've talked to. Like I have a lot of colleagues that are obviously using AI to the nth degree, and I've gotten a lot of feedback from them on what they've seen work, and they've also tried these kinds of things too. So that's where I want to go with this, and hopefully get you in a place where you're more grounded in reality. Because if you're looking at X right now, and I do this maybe haphazardly, maybe it's a negative overall in my life. If I'm looking at X, I feel like I'm like 10 times behind the people that are min-maxing these agents. And that's not a good place to be. And the reality is that's not the real situation. Like there is in my opinion, there is a proper way to do this.
This immediately rings a bell, and that is a recent episode that we published, which is about bottlenecks. I mean, we talked about how the coding has not been the bottleneck for a while because there's project managers and there's marketing to be done and concepts to go through and all these other things, and that's a very human sort of experience, especially if you're talking about managers themselves and administration and things like that, and there's that overhead. And once again, we have another bottleneck, which is I guess we are just straight up talking about another bottleneck, which is you can't, as a human, be doing 10 tasks at a time, let alone having 100 tasks. And until those agents are trustworthy enough to say, I have an app idea, mobile app, I want you to build this mobile app. All right, go. And then it does everything and fires it out to the Play Store. And the only thing I do is in a couple of days go and see if anyone's downloaded it. Until the experience is that smooth, the bottleneck is going to be us. And the more we talk about this stuff, the more I'm starting to realize that in the previous episode, as well as this episode, the bottleneck is us. It's the humans. Whether that's a good or a bad thing, I'm sure that's a big debate because, get rid of the humans, get them out of there. But then you have a whole sort of system of collapse because the AI doesn't have motivation. And so therefore it's not going to do anything unless ordered to do so. And then you might say, well, AGI, okay, great. So now we've effectively created a new being, and that new being has its own, like you're starting to get messy. You're starting to get into like, the Caprica and Battlestar Galactica level questions where it's like, is this thing supposed to follow our orders morally? What are we doing here? And I know that this is, maybe sounding like it's coming out of left field. But the human part of these experiences are not only bottlenecks, which sounds like they're problems, they're also checks and balances, but they're also the reason why the whole thing exists. The whole reason why any of these processes exist, why AI exists, why coding exists, is because humans are around. And so I think this is why conversations lately are becoming more existential, where people are starting to realize maybe we don't need people for everything, but what does that mean if it progresses?
I do see that point, and I think those conversations are starting to happen more and more because of these AI systems are getting better and better. It always comes back to like that conversation of automation, like when, Ford built his factories and automated a bunch of the, design for creating cars.
Of course.
And it started the Industrial Revolution. It was the same thing with like cars and horses and creating like factories and people were saying that the exact same things. Like, do we need people anymore? Like these factories are going to run themselves. And then more recently, you mentioned recently in a previous episode, I think, would be the Gigafactory example of the same thing, where we said, hey, let's make this factory that builds cars itself, and then it still needs humans, but maybe less humans, right? So it's the same conversation, and it's the same thing with AI. Like, do we need humans? Well, we need less humans, maybe. The reality is every single one of those has created more opportunities than it killed. I don't know if that's going to be the case with AI. I think AI, there is some argument to say that AI might not have that approach, but if we look historically, that's been the outcome of any of these revolutions, quote unquote.
Well, you're 100% right. Like if you look at the history, it is cyclical where you have an industry come up, whether it's automation or another industry, cars replacing horses, a bunch of examples out there where you start going, what are all the people who work in stables going to do? What are all the farmers that deal with the horses going to do? What's going to happen here? And then we don't see you can't see on the onset that there's going to be a massive amount of jobs of construction because cars allow people to go further. Now there's commuters. Now there's new towns. Roads need to be built. Infrastructure then needs to be built. We need not only labor for building infrastructure, we also need specialists that understand how electricity works on a grand scale. We need to understand plumbing on a grand scale. We need to update that slowly because it's obviously going to be different plumbing and different electricity for a town versus a city. Some places are going to go from town to city. But here's the thing, though, is we're always talking about people building things that are tools that we use. And I think with AI, the number one sort of concern is that this thing, for the first time ever, may be able to do what we do. A sewer would never build itself. If I wanted a sewer built and I didn't want to build it, it was mandatory for me to effectively find a human to do it and get them to do it. Pay them to do it. Maybe legally they have to do it for some reason, to a bylaw or something, but a human does it, right? They have to do it. The town has to fix the road. I am not allowed to fix the road, but there's a human that the town hired that's going to fix that road, and no one's, quote unquote, no one's paying for it. It comes out of like the taxpayer and all that. And so there's always a human there. But what happens when a robot's doing that road work, or a robot with intelligence is the one that's managing our electrical network or managing our internet and things like that? And I think that is the number one concern with AI right now, is that it's the first time where the human intervention is being called into question. But I would almost say that probability dictates it will still be cyclical. We don't understand what the new technological age, I suppose, what this AI age will bring. It may bring in 10 bajillion million jobs in space flight, or whatever. Like I couldn't even tell you. But I think it is a fair question to ask, and maybe not worry every day about, but it is a fair question to ask and say, well, if we're then going to start going into space flight, I'm just making this up on the fly, but if we're now going to go into space flight, are we going to go into space flight, or are the robots going to go into space flight? Because those big robots, or those big ships, a lot of the resources put into those ships are because humans are on there, and we need oxygen, we need food, we need a waste management system. We need to be able to stretch use our muscles and have bone density issues, and we need to have that dealt with. We have all these issues. Just put a bunch of robots in a pod and, obviously I'm simplifying it, and just fire that thing toward Mars and then have the internet connect to the robots, and then we either control it or the robots go, Mars sucks, let's clean it up for these humans. And then they start. So it is a weird, we're entering a bit of a weird era.
We're entering sci-fi, right? Like we're very much entering sci-fi, and maybe this is the first era where we actually see that happening, and the first hints of what we've kind of been predicting as a society for 100 years or so, that we're maybe entering that space. And it's both exciting and scary at the same time. And I think it's always meant to be that way by the sci-fi offers as well, because we've seen the positives and negatives being displayed from that perspective. So we don't know where we're going to end up yet, but to kind of bring us back down to reality, where we're at right now isn't there, right?
Certainly
we're not at the point where these AI agents can autonomously do everything that we can do. We're still pretty far away from that, especially from a physical perspective. Like robotics is probably a decade, maybe even two, away from getting there. So, but people are starting
you think robotics is the issue, you think?
I think robotics will be a much bigger challenge than everything else, in my opinion. I think that getting
I don't know about that.
A real world model that understands the world better than us is going to be quite challenging. It requires more data than what we currently have available. Robotics data is.
You mean the AI understanding I'm thinking more of, you're talking the mechanical, because I think we could make a mechanical human body that can do all the motions of a human body.
I think we're trying to, but I think that's also a technological challenge, especially to mass produce something like that. I do think that I'm not saying we're not going to. I just think it's a 10 to 20 year landscape for getting there, unless again AI accelerates it. But regardless of that, that's we're talking in the future. Even if it's at the fastest timeline that I think someone said 5 years, one of the AI CEOs says we're 5 years away from it. That still seems ridiculous to me, but whatever. Let's say it's 5 years. We're still talking future.
Yes.
Right now, people are talking about these systems as if they can already do things that they can't. And that's what I want to really address here, right? We're at the point, if we're talking about coding, right, that a lot of our audience are developers. So right now, a lot of developers are using the AI tools, and I think the correct way, where they're just, getting them to work on one project at a time. But a lot of the influencers out there are showing, hey, I'm building 10, 20, 30 projects at once to vet them and to, give myself a burst shotgun approach of getting products to market as fast as possible. And I just don't see that being a viable option to create good products from many different perspectives, right? It's cool to create a bunch of POCs. That's fine. But the reality is to get people to use them, to actually manage the marketing flow of all that, to get any sort of stability on those products, we can't do 20, 30 things at once. Like, we're not that capable. Like humans have a limitation. And if you're trying to do that, you might be able to get to the first step in each product fairly quickly. And I think that's what a lot of people are showing off in this influencer posts, where they show these like really simple POCs for each one of these apps. But the issue is that each one of those applications to actually properly test out and to market requires focus, like requires a person to go in and like figure out how it fits in the market. And you can ask an AI to help you with that. But at the end of the day, like you said, they still don't have the autonomy to know what people want to a certain degree and to react to the industry as fast as possible and to support, the people that are going to might be using it and to interject into their communities to actually sell these products. So it's, in my opinion, like just kind of a waste of time to go down that route. You're just making products that are arguably continually increasing in complexity and lowering in maintainability. And with that, the stability will always decrease. So even if one of those products all of a sudden takes off, you're stuck managing and puppeteering 15 other products, and you might not catch it. And you might not be able to quickly adjust to that market, to that product's needs, because you're maintaining a bunch of crap that you might not have been able to maintain before. And you're going to lose. Like it's kind of, you're putting yourself in a lose situation due to your attention span not being big enough. Like, you cannot physically create good good code with that little context. I can maybe, accurately and really, really in depth review like 300 to 1,000 lines of code. Like, I can maybe do that at once. If you're doing 15 projects, you're like, that's like, thousands and thousands of lines of code, like, 15, 20, 30,000 lines of code. You don't know what's going on in there. You have maybe a very, very high level overview, but if there's something wrong, you're relying on the agent to fix it. Obviously, that a lot of people are doing that. And every time you rely on the agent to do something without reviewing it, you're losing context and you're losing context and you're losing context. And at the end of the day, when that product becomes something that maybe is viable, you have so little context in its design and its architecture that it's going to be almost impossible to maintain. You're going to have to recreate it from scratch maybe, or you have to hire someone to recreate it from scratch. Like, that is a viable maybe option, but that's expensive. Whereas and I'll talk about this a little bit more later, like the real focus here, or the real superpower here, is focusing and being able
Right.
to use these tools to really power through and do your current job better, rather than creating this new weird, like, superpower job of managing 1,000 agents. That's not what we're designed for. Like, we're not meant to manage all that. And I just don't see a path for humans specifically to get to the point where they should be able to manage it. Now, we could say that once AGI comes around, that's a different topic. But if AGI is mimicking human intelligence, that might not even be the case too.
One thing that really stands out is the fact that you're talking about scaling, and
Mhm.
scaling is something that we absolutely talked about very early in this show and was absolutely a big piece of the conversation when talking about cloud computing. When cloud computing was sort of the bee's knees, it was brand new, or it was the newest thing, and that was kind of the thing for a very long time. Obviously, it's just sort of the norm now. Scaling was always a big thing. And it's obviously still going to be a big thing for many people. If you expect a product to go from 1 to 100 users, I mean, you could probably get away with reseller hosting. If you're expect it to go to 1 million, you're going to want dedicated or cloud where it's scalable, where, based upon you paying more and then more servers get spun up. You're going to need load balancers. You're going to need things like that. That's a completely different ballgame. Where you're using enterprise CMS maybe, and it's just a different experience. And it's interesting that the scale of things is probably still discussed, I'm sure, especially game dev is the first thing off the top of my head. They need a certain amount of people. If a bunch of people start playing their game, they need a bunch of servers to spin up. So they'll use like a cloud service that allows for more servers to spin up dynamically so that more people can play in more lobbies and things like that. And we still have issues scaling that. It's just interesting that we are scaling the amount of work almost indefinitely on a human. By deploying a bunch of agents, you are adding more work to the human. You think that you're not, but you are, because you have to be the person that checks it. and you're not looking at the scale concern there. We at the beginning of talking about AI in the earlier days, like maybe 2 years ago or so, we were talking very much about how AI is supposed to sort of augment us. The tools haven't changed that much. Yeah, they've gotten better. Yeah, there's Codex and Claude Code and things, but they haven't gotten amazingly better. They're not, tapping you on the shoulder and being like, I got a great idea. Let's try. That's not happening yet. And so, I mean, are we really we're just scaling without thought, I think, is what's happening right now. We don't have a scaling concern. We don't go, I guess we don't have the numbers quite yet where we say, humans should have an average of 2 agents running at most or something like that. I'm sure there's going to be studies and reports and things done, but I just feel as though it's very, very interesting that scale was always this huge concern when it came to websites, and still is realistically a concern. But then for some reason, when it comes to this, it's sort of like, I'm just going to go nuts and build 700 things. I don't even want to build 700 things. And also, even if you were able to take in the work, and let's say you were mentioning the abstraction and you're losing context and you don't understand your code base. Let's say that happens. And let's say it doesn't matter. The AI is so good that there's no bugs, there's no issues. As long as you prompted it right, it does it right. Fair enough. Are you really going to be delivering amazing apps? Like, thinking of mobile apps, just to zoom in on something. Think about, at least me, if I have a mobile app or we made Chrome apps in the past, I would use those Chrome apps over and over again. And then I would say, hey, this is actually a weird bit of UX. And we would fix that. And then we had a small test group, maybe 10 people, I think, maybe 6 to 10 people. And we used to send it to them. After we sent it to them, the version that we sent them to the very next version, which was a day or two later, was completely different. The UI was different. The buttons were different. People were confused about things. They didn't understand what certain icons meant. And it was like, oh, okay, we need some more context here. We need things. And this is because we focused on one thing. We looked at it, we improved it, and did it work when just Mike and I were testing it? Yeah, of course. But we had those sort of blinders on. And we mentioned this on the show many times, where you have those blinders on because you're in that project focus mode. If that goes away, are you going to really care about your test groups? Are you really going to care about the UX specifically? This is that UX concern again, where I'm concerned about the UX of AI itself. In the previous episode that we just recorded, I'm worried about the UX of AI itself. But then what about the UX of stuff that AI is producing? It's still producing things for humans. The average consumer isn't going into the terminal and messing around with stuff. And I've mentioned this to friends before, where when you boot up a video game and it's just really buggy right out of the gate, and it's just, it's all messed up. And sometimes I talk to my friends and I say, you know what I think this might be, and it's from various companies, and I'm just assuming, is it's run more by the technical staff, and they look at an issue like the menu not loading properly sometimes or something like that. That seems fairly major. And they go, oh yeah, that's no problem. That's just because we forgot to cache the image. You're right. Maybe it is just something small like that. But to the blank, like just the consumer themselves, they don't understand what that is. Like they're looking at it and they're like, this main menu is broken, right? And I feel like some companies fall into the trap of those issues aren't too big. It's just a couple of cache issues. The textures don't load, but it's okay. Like, we know that it's not going to crash and that's this and that. But the general consumer is just seeing my menu doesn't work and my textures don't load and I can't click on this button sometimes. And I'm trying to make this decision in this game and I can't click this button. And what the heck? And it's coming out as broken. I can only see those type of issues being exemplified by the fact that AI is just going to go like, oh yeah, like, it's only a small problem. If there's an issue, you have no context to fix it. I can just see this spiraling out of control. I feel like my responses to you are almost like really scatterbrained because I feel like this is actually a big issue. This is actually a multifaceted topic of, if you told me, Mike, tomorrow, I'm going to spin up 25, not 100, 25 agents, and you're going to manage those 25 agents, be like, what is going on? And then the agents start emailing and texting me and they're like, Matt, we got a problem on like port one, where the hell's the ports? What port for what? And I can only imagine trying to balance something like this.
And that's the thing. And you mentioned early on in that, like studies, right? Like studies will show that this is becoming unattainable, and it's already started to happen. There's a study, and I've linked it in the show notes, from the Harvard Business Review about when using AI leads to brain fry. And essentially in that study, the TLDR is that when you're using like 3 to 4 agents at once in a particular case, in a particular industry or whatever, we're starting to see this thing called brain fry, which is different from burnout, where your brain is kind of just like foggy and tired, and it has trouble, following the thread. It has trouble staying on focus. It's not necessarily burning you out. It's just you're lowering the performance of a human very significantly using these, like stretching your brain too thin when you're working on multiple different parallel tasks. The weird thing is that initially when you do that, there's an endorphin, like a cortisonal like reaction where you're actually like more excited, and it actually has a chance to lower burnout because you're seeing the potential and everything. And as you start using it, as you start, making intricate workflows and throwing in another agent to do this other thing, you slowly start to, and it's not even that slow. It's like it could take a week or two. You slowly start to get this brain fry thing where your brain is just stretched. Like it can't handle this information. Plus the idea that you're not the one doing it. That's another part of it. Is like you have this reaction to AI at some point where you're like, well, am I actually doing these things? Like I'm asking it to do it and I'm maybe reviewing them, but is it actually me or is it something else? And that exacerbates the brain fry to the point where you just become less and less useful, and those agents don't provide any value to you, and you just become less, you literally become less of a useful employee, even with all this power at your fingertips. So there's already this concept starting, and I see it myself. Like I think I felt brain fry a few times. I try not to go down the path of, utilizing every new tool or every new AI workflow that I see. Like, there's like Ralph loops and skills versus plugins versus MCP servers, and like which skills will work with what thing. Like it's extremely challenging right now knowing what specific workflow adds to what specific output.
Oh, it's chaos. It's a constant FOMO. If my YouTube algorithm's starting to get this stuff, and it's constant FOMO. I actually have a question for you, Mike. I want to interject there because you mentioned sort of the brain fry, and you've experienced it due to all these things that are happening. Have you ever had brain fry due to AI guilt? And I'll give you an example. I have. I didn't know it was called brain fry, but having quickly skimmed through this article that you have, again, linked in the show notes, I was thinking to myself, one of the things that I really struggle with is if I go to write a blog post for the website, I can just have the AI write the blog post at the end of the day. But every time I do that and I start with that, I immediately start thinking, this isn't something that I wrote. I need to start editing it. And then I start making small edits. It's almost like I copied someone's homework and I'm trying to change things so the teacher doesn't find out. And then it starts getting more intimate, I suppose, where I start thinking, I wouldn't have phrased it like this. I wouldn't have had headings like this. And then I have the thought of, well, I know the AI has a lot of SEO insights. Maybe I should leave it. But then I also think, well, all our SEO benefits have been because of, me and you and Michael LaRocca and other contributing authors. And I mean, many of our articles predate the prominent usage of AI, so we must have been doing something right. And my brain starts going through these cycles and it falls apart. Because we've been asked, I've given articles to other people, we've been asked point blank, how much of this article is written by AI? And my honest answer to them when I give them it, because this is my current workflow, I can't promise it's not going to change. My current workflow is I ask for an outline. I talk back and forth about an outline. It gives me examples and things because I am a very example heavy person and it knows that. It gives me examples and things. I read it over and over and over again. And then I go, okay, I don't like how it did this. Even if it's for SEO, this doesn't sound right. And I've actually done a test outside of the blog where I've had a LinkedIn post, posted it in the sort of beginner coding niche, and it was all AI written. And then I did one where it was me written, and it helped me with some examples and things. And, that I would naturally go to blog posts and stuff anyway for that, but it helped me with some examples and things. But I wrote it myself. Is it a messier writing or whatever? Sure. But it's more organic and it did way better. It did way better. Now that's a sample size of 2, but like, do you have that where it's sort of like that hesitation of, again, like, am I doing this Should I be doing this? What are we what are we doing here, right?
It's very cyclical for me, but yes, I absolutely have that both with writing and with code. Like sometimes I'll have the same thing because I pretty much at this point don't write any code.
And
I
that would
pretty
feel
much
weird to me.
just review code. Like I don't literally sit in front of an IDE at all, um, which is crazy. And that I definitely have guilt over that, right? But I look at the code that it's writing, and a lot of times, like either it tricks me or it is writing good code. Like it is writing code that I would write a lot of times, and sometimes it's writing code that I can't write, and sometimes it's writing code that it's worse but still works, and that's fine for the most part for what I'm doing, right? Like it's I see the real use case of it in that perspective. Writing is a little bit different for me because I'm not the best writer. It takes me quite a while to write like a good blog post essentially. And a lot of times I don't like it, but I will get AI to help heavily on certain things. I like to work a little bit differently than you where I actually write the outline and then I get AI to fill it in. And I find the flow there is a little bit better, and at least I can have some control over what the article should look like. Again, this is my own thing, and there's always going to be too much and too little that I do with it. But I'm not. I don't have a good answer for like the writing stuff yet. But overall, yes, guilt, 100%. I feel it, and that 100% contributes to the brain fry. It 100% contributes to it because it's back to that whole like, are you doing this or is the AI doing this?
Well, let me
And
ask you a
that,
question there. You
yeah,
said one of those things you said was you can't. You said that AI is writing stuff that you would, and one of the things you said was that you can't. Does that mean that it's writing it at a more complex level or something that you don't understand or a better way than you would? Like, what does that mean? Because I would
yeah. A lot of
imagine
times
if it's sorry, go ahead.
it's kind yeah, it's kind of both. It's a lot of times it's both a better way than I would, and then sometimes it's something that like I literally can't at this moment, and I would have to look up how to do it. And then I would have to like, in those situations, sometimes I'll literally query the AI and be like, what is this? And then it'll explain it to me and I'll be like, okay, cool. Now at least I understand it from that perspective. But I would have had to ramp up in whatever it's writing and figure that out, right? Like it's doing things that would have taken me longer to do
Right.
had I done it manually. It's still code, like it's still JavaScript code. There's no JavaScript code I technically can't write. But it's always like, I have a certain subset of skills right now in JavaScript, and AI has a way, way wider subset of skills than I do, and therefore it can do things that I can't
Well, I
at
was
this
wondering
moment.
if that's contributing to the guilt almost a little bit because I would almost feel that way to an extent. Where and this is where I get bogged down. Like this is a personal thing. Is like if it's giving me examples because I'll ask for examples and I don't understand them, I end up starting to do Google searches. I query the AI to help me, and I end up not getting my article done on time because I'm constantly sitting there trying to understand the examples because I don't want to be putting something out that I don't understand. And I'm just wondering if like that is a bit of an irk for you because it's but I will say this, gamers use this term all the time. It's like you've done your time where some people will, let's say, play a game on like hard forever and then they're going for an achievement, years later or something, and they start a new game and people are like, are you going to play on hard? It's like, no, I've done my time with this game. I'm going to play on easy and just trying to rush to the objective. And a lot of people will respect that. Is it sort of that where it's sort of like you've done your time in the trenches of figuring out your own code and stuff like that?
For for sure, but having said that, there's very little amounts of code, if at all, that I wouldn't be able to go back and like explain through on like a
Okay.
review. Like if I would have if someone was sitting beside me and I had to explain the code that the AI wrote, pretty much 99% of it I can go line by line and explain what it's doing,
Okay.
right?
Okay.
So that's never been a huge problem for me. And the parts that I don't understand is the parts that I query to understand. But it's usually like in a complex PR, it'll be like one or two things that I really don't understand at all, and I'm like, I've never seen this before. Like, God, where did you
Right.
come up with this? And sometimes I'll catch it doing things that are dumb in that perspective, and that's why you have to query. That's why you have to be attention. That's another point to what I'm saying is like if you are literally allowing it to go through and just write all your code without reviewing it, which is, I mean, if you have 15 projects going at once, you're not reviewing it, like, period. You're not
No,
reviewing
definitely
that
not.
code. You're just trusting the AI to build it. You're going to have some really weird architecture in there that will prevent you from scaling. Like it's going to prevent that product from succeeding even if it does succeed from a competent, like even if you created something that people want. So it's a weird aspect to me that, like, especially in corporations maintaining legacy code bases, that you wouldn't review the code. It takes time, and that sucks. Like, we're used to instant gratification now, but the reality is that it's very, very necessary with the current infrastructure to make sure that the context, that your context, not the AI's context, your context remains at the highest level it can. It's not going to be perfect. You're not writing the code. Let me be clear here. It's going to be worse than if you wrote it. That's reality. Like, I'm sorry, you can review code all you want, but you're not going to retain all the context that you would have if you had written it yourself. So you are doing a trade-off, even in this like focus approach that I would have.
Because you're going for speed.
Because you're going for speed, and you're not only speed, you're going for deeper implementation abilities. You're not trying to make it faster, you're trying to make it better. And that's why I'm saying, like, AIs can help you make stuff better. It's not just about the speed. It's not even just about, it's not about the speed at all, in my opinion. It's about writing better code and more consistent code. AIs have the capability to do that.
Right.
You just have to, that's your focus. Like, that should be your focus when you're building it, not fast and spread thin, but deep and better and more maintainable code. And if that's your focus, then you're going to write it. You're going to make better code. You're going to have systems that can scale better. Like, it's going to be able to detect when you have an N+1 problem, like a wrong implemented algorithm, because if you give it enough context, hey, I need these database queries to be accessible, by 1,000 people every second. Like, that's my intention with this. When you query that to the AI, it knows that, okay, you're not going to be able to do this with N+1. You're going to have to, use a better algorithm. You can't do the right database query if every single time you try to read read something from the database, you have to read literally line by line every piece of the database.
Right.
It's going to know that, and it's going to write a better query for you if you give it enough context. If you're just like, I just need this to work because I have to move on to this next project, and I need this to work, and I have to move on to this next project, then you're not doing a good job going deeper. You're not doing a good job writing maintainable code. You're not giving the AI enough context, and you're not reviewing it enough to be able to satisfy that, barrier. Like, you can't write good code even with AI if AI doesn't know what the context is of this thing. It's going to do what it can with the information you give it. And most of the time now, like, the AI has gotten so good that if you give it enough info and you get enough structure, it's going to do a pretty good job. But that's also a skill, and that's also takes time. So
I actually have a recent experience with this. So I was making instead of the content boxes wrapping when the screen shrunk, they'd be sort of in thirds on a larger screen, and then they would shrink to a certain extent, but then stay at a size that was too large, and then they would push outside of the overflow, and then you would have arrow buttons where you would click and it would, kind of slide over almost like a slider to their content boxes. And I was building this, and I needed to scale it up as well. I needed it to be on multiple areas. So I was controlling it with custom attributes. And I did this in the past, and I did it quite a while ago. I thought, okay, it's going to be pretty inefficient. I used AI at the time to help me as well. So I thought, okay, I'm going to give, the new model, I'm going to restart. I'm going to make a new thing. So I go and I do it, and it just wouldn't do it. It was like, here, do this, do this, do this, do this. It's like, okay. And I did it, and I was trying to build it as like a Webflow plugin, and it just wouldn't do it. And so I was sending it videos and like showing it full context, so I wasn't making mistakes in my prompt. And I was like, look at this thing. And it says, oh yeah, it's not moving, add this. Oh yeah, it's not moving, add this. Oh yeah, it's not working, add this. And I eventually got to about the 5th, maybe 8th time it did this. And I thought to myself, I didn't have all this churn, all this garbage all around everything. So I go in and I see that it's adding classes to everything. And I'm like, no, I don't want classes. I want custom attributes, because I want to have the custom attributes on multiple different things. And yes, some of the CSS has to be the same, but I'll handle that with classes myself. Like, I don't care about that. So it's like, all right, do this, 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 this. And I'm like, I can't do some of that in Webflow. And you know that. Like, you said specifically to do this in custom code and this in the designer, and I can't do this in the designer. And it's like, oh yeah, you can't do that in the designer. So already it's starting to hallucinate, and then it's starting to mess up. So what I did was I went back to my old code, found it, grabbed it, looked at it myself, didn't give it to the AI. I looked at it, and it was all custom attribute based, easy peasy. And it was working great. It had some limitations just because the other site had some different dimensions and things like this. So I was like, okay, we can work around this. We can make it so that instead of having some hard defined dimensions, we can make it so that maybe it reads the screen quickly and checks the dimensions and grabs that or whatever. So I tell it, I go to the AI and I'm like, this works. And it's like, fantastic, that works. What do you want to do with it? And I said, I want to make this thing, the thing we just been working on, scrap the old code. I want you to use this. And it's like, all right. And so it does it, and it like does kind of a half-ass job changing it over. And I go and I check it, and it's kind of working, but it's kind of jittery. It's not great. And then it says to me, like, okay, is that good? And I'm like, no, it's jittering. Here's the video of it jittering. We have this weird thing where it has too many dots, and because there's some dot nav to it, there's too many dots. You're just making dots all over the place. What are you doing? And it's like, no. It's like, we're gonna change this. No worries, man. And it goes in. What does it do? It like adds like 2 lines of the old code that I now want to use, and then it uses all of its old code, the stuff I told it to scrap. It's like, no, I want you to use this. This works. We need like 3 lines of code here, I think. And I mean, that it just couldn't do it. So I went in and I was like, you know what? The heck with this. I just went in there, 3 minutes, might have been a minute. I went in there, changed it from classes, because on that other site it was classes. Changed it from classes to custom attributes. Added a couple of lines of CSS that are mandatory because you couldn't set that stuff in Webflow. Tested it, it worked. I was like, okay. And then I added a number system. I think there was already some sort of that, but I modified it. And then I was like, okay, now I have one slider working. I need the second one working, and they're different dimensions. Let's see if it works. Works just fine. So I like to give my AI context because I don't want it to think, oh yeah, I did a good job. So I give it, and I'm like, this is what I came up with, and this is what I want, and this works. And it's like, oh yeah, this works because of, and it tries to explain itself. It's like, if you freaking knew how to, understand this, if you knew, don't talk back to me. Like, this is your fault. Like, what are you doing? And what I worry about with a lot of the people that are inexperienced, and myself included, like if I tried to use this thing on React and I'm a new React newbie, I mean, I would have had friggin' 9 wrappers around a simple thing that's just supposed to scroll left and right. Like, and that's not a joke. I would have legitimately potentially had like 9 we have a track, we have a track plus, we have a track wrapper, we have a content wrapper, we have a content box, we have this. I had a fight with it over padding. I was like, I need 4 pixels padding. And it's like, nah, you can't add padding to this. I go in and I'm like, okay, let's just add an offset and just like put the offset variable at 4, and it'll just read the padding, and then I'll just put that as an offset, and it works. And then the stupid thing explained it to me. At the end, it's like, yeah, like that's why the padding works. Why, if it works, why didn't you just do it? And it's it's in those moments where you realize that this thing is not as intelligent as we think it is.
Yeah, and I've had a similar experience recently too. I even like kind of did it on purpose just to see, because it happens. It sometimes does get in this cyclical mistake loops, and it can't get itself out of it. And if you're managing 15 projects at once, I can guarantee you that as complexity builds in each one of those projects, it's going to happen more and more and more. And you cannot troubleshoot that as a human. And so you are going to end up with either really janky code, like you're saying, or just a not working apps.
Yep.
They just won't work, and you'll abandon them. And that's what people do. Like they'll just, again, it's all surface level stuff. And as soon as they reach a roadblock, instead of plowing through it like we used to do, they'll just abandon it because it's so easy it was so easy to spin it up. It's easier to spin down. Right. So you're missing out on ideas when you go down that approach. And like with mine, I knew what to do. I knew how to fix it. But I'm like, this one is a weird fix. All you have to do really is do delete the node modules folder and delete the package lock, and then it'll work. I'm wondering if it can come up with that solution on its own. And I took it through 3 or 4 dozen conversation loops. Dozen conversation loops, at least. It was profiling the computer's memory at one point, seeing exactly what was in the memory of my MacBook. And it was trying to figure out how it could kill the stuff on my Mac. Like, this is dangerous. How it could kill processes before they could kill it. Like, this was a crazy, I was just excited about the opportunity to fuck around with it, but it never got to the solution. And I literally stopped it, deleted the node modules folder, deleted the package lock, restarted, and everything was working because I knew. But that context is apparently impossible for it to gain from that perspective. And that's why I've come to the conclusion that you cannot stretch yourself and work on good code. Like, you cannot. Because as soon as it becomes any complexity, like as soon as your code has any sort of complexity and weird janky stuff in it and like legacy stuff in it, asking it to do something big in that code base without any oversight is asking for you to just essentially give up that code base. It just cannot do it. Even though these models are amazing and they can do some crazy things if directed properly, there are certain things they cannot do still. And there are certain things that they can do, but still will screw up sometimes if you're not on it. And that's what I'm saying about just having maintainable code and doing things properly. Like, using these tools shouldn't be treated as, hey, I can now 10x myself as a human being. It should be treated as, hey, I can now become better at this thing and I can go farther and deeper at it and I can write better code right now.
What I'm just kind of thinking is happening right now is we are focusing too much on the tool and we're focusing less on the task. If I need to get this task done, instead of having 100 agents, what if I take 100 days and I knock out one task each day well?
Each day. That's a really good way to bring it. That's how I think people should be talking about it. I think the idea of trying to tackle 100 things at once and getting pretty much none of those done great.
Silly.
It's stupid. Like, I don't understand. Yeah, why are we chasing that? Why are we chasing that like it's some sort of drug? Get the one task done really well a day, better than you could before. And then that's proof that these AI agents are helping you. And if you can't, stop using them and do it yourself, I guess. Like, whatever, just get one good task done a day. I can guarantee you that's going to make you a better employee, a better developer, a better contractor, whatever. And everything else will fall in line. Don't, like I have written here, slow down, don't overcomplicate, and focus. And I truly think I need to print that out for myself and put it somewhere, because I sometimes fall into these traps of like trying to min-max and figuring out what the best loop is and figuring out what the best workflow is and like getting the right agent tools in. I'm still going to do that. I want to be clear. Like I love screwing around with tech.
Well, so
and stuff
screwing
like that.
around is one thing. If you want to say, I want to try 100 agents and the goal is like a YouTube experiment or a personal experiment, I get it. Right. Of course.
Exactly. I'm not going to do it on my day-to-day work that requires focus and requires good work. I want to provide good output. Like, you don't need a million different skills in your AI agents. You don't need all these different strategies and like MCP servers. Again, it's not required. Like, they're getting better and better. They're getting so good that all of those things that you're learning are actually slowing them down. Like, what's come out recently is that like the more you guide it, the more like there's this thing in Claude Code and Codex and everything where you can have it initialize your repository and it'll go through and write this Claude MD file or like whatever Codex MD file that has all of the intricacies of your code base inside of it, right? So it knows every time that you ask it something, it knows a bunch about your code base. What's been discovered is that was great 2 generations ago. Now that actually limits the ability of the agent because it's so good at discovering things that it will rely on it too much, and therefore it'll miss things because there's only so much you can put in that Claude MD file. And the more you put in it, you're actually context poisoning it. Like, again, the more you overcomplicate, the worse it's going to get. And so the simpler and more bare metal you use these agents nowadays, honestly, like I've seen really good performance there. And what I do a lot of times, if I run into a situation like you ran into, Matt, where the agent isn't working, is I'll just start a new chat. Like it screws up twice and I'm like, okay, whatever. I'll just start a new chat and let's try it from a different perspective. I'll ask it to do something differently, right? Like that's the simplistic way. I'm not going to add 15 skills about figuring out Webflow and all that. Like, I'm just not going to do that unless like I can't get something working, period.
Right.
Then maybe I'll look into a skill, maybe, but I'm not overloading it. I'm not putting too much context in it. I'm trying to use it from as bare metal as possible, because I do believe that that's going to be the thing that matters down the line as these agents get better and better, is like, how do you use the agent themselves? Like, how do you use the LLM themselves to the best, to the highest ability?
Well, the thing there too is, it'll learn things, but like, so to be clear here, I was using just like ChatGPT. I wasn't using like Codex or anything like that. And I wasn't even using agent mode because like usually it's a couple I'm augmenting Webflow. So usually it's like a bit of JavaScript, maybe a couple of divs I need to put in, and that's about it. But I will say, my mind just completely went blank. I don't know what I was going to say. What was it talking about, Mike?
Your brain is fried, Matt.
My brain is fried. I have
just talking about the AI agents.
I have brain fried. Oh, yes. I know exactly what I was going to talk about. So I had like another instance where I was trying agent mode and I was also using just chat as well. So it was kind of a combination of this. This is a while ago now. And I had this instance where I was telling it everything exactly like you said. So I didn't have an MD file, but I was really giving this thing, the mustard. Here's all these details. Here's this, here's that, here's this, here's that. And I think I overloaded its context because it was giving me all these weird commands and stuff. And I was trying to use the Webflow API for something. And I realized I was like, these commands and these like API calls are not what's in this documentation, because I opened the Webflow documentation to look at it. And what's going on here? And so then I told it, hey man, these aren't the commands. These are. And it's like, oh no, like, we can use these, don't worry. It's just one version back. And I was like, uh-oh, hang on, go look. And immediately I'm like, that version's been like shut off, dude. Like it's no longer in like end of life. Like it's end of life. It's off. It's no longer being like, long-term supported or something. It's dead. And it's like, immediately it's like, version 2, no worries. And it just fixed itself. And like, I often wonder whether if instead of me overloading it with like, this is what I'm doing and this is how old the site is and this is what I'm happening and this and this, maybe it like took one of those things out of context and then was like, yeah, I'll just use an old API version, because all the documentation I was finding, even from fans or, people that are writing Webflow guides, were all version 2. So I don't know where the heck it was going. And for some reason went into the depths of the internet. And I kind of wonder if it was because of the context I gave it, something in that context. It's been a while now, so I don't remember exactly, but
yeah, it's tough. Like it could have been from its training data, right? Like that could have been part of it. Like it's difficult to know where it goes and when. And with stuff like Webflow, it's a little bit worse off because there's just less content about development stuff in Webflow. There's still a lot, but it's just not as much as something like React. But it's gotten a lot better at least being able to read the docs. And there are some tools that actually do benefit. So there's this thing called Context 7, which is a plugin that allows it access to all docs in a very simple way. And it can always query Context 7 and be like Webflow docs. And then it can go through and get them in like an LLM format that it understands. So there are little things and little intricacies that you can make your agent better. But for the most part, it should be able to just go on the internet and find the right doc and get it. And sometimes it screws up. Like sometimes it will screw up and you have to be on it to catch it. And if you're just putting it in the cloud on OpenClaw and just looking at the output and seeing the website break, like, geez, like it's going to be tough. Like it's going to be very tough for you to maintain that code base. You have no idea what's going on in there.
No, absolutely not.
Yeah. So yeah, I think that kind of covers it for my feelings about it. I really do believe in the idea of, again, slow down, don't overcomplicate, focus, and that will lead to a much better workflow for you and less brain fog or whatever, brain fry, whatever it's called. I do worry that, a lot of this is being propagated from leadership of companies, and they're trying to get as much out of their employees as possible, as a tradition with capitalism. And that will backfire in their faces because they're just going to have a bunch of like brain fried zombies working for you that are over reliant on the AI and not thinking for themselves. And that will lead to actually a significant reduction in like good productivity, like productivity that leads to outcomes. I'm starting to see that happen a little bit in some company, in some metrics that I'm looking at, where companies are kind of slowing down rather than speeding up, right? Like there's just less releases in some places, or the releases are very buggy. Like Amazon just released a statement saying, hey, everyone, slow the hell down. We're taking down big sections of AWS, which is like an infrastructure that everyone relies on, because we're, vibe coding stuff and not reviewing it. Like
wait a second here, though. AWS said this to who? Their employees?
To their employees, yeah.
I mean, like did their employees do this under their leadership, though? Were the
correct?
Employees pressured?
Yeah, that's correct. Yes. So now they're starting to see the negative effects of that, and now they're pushing back. So it's a pendulum swing, right? I guarantee you that we're going to see the pendulum swing back towards like, hey, let's slow down a little bit, and then a new model will come out and the pendulum will swing back to speed up and speed like, and hopefully at some point it'll stabilize in an area where it's both sustainable from a human perspective and productive from a corporation's perspective. That's an optimistic point of view. I don't know if that's going to happen, but it's tough to see. It's tough to predict, at least, how we're going to maintain this level of productivity with what's really is like people are really getting brain fried.
I mean, I was actually going to ask you if this is comparable to crunch. Is this almost like a crunch all the time kind of thing? If you're
Kind of,
really
but
fried,
crunch leads to burnout. So again, brain fry and
right?
burnout are separate. Where brain fry is kind of like not being as productive and not being as human, almost
Almost
in a
like
sense. So
dissociating.
maybe, yeah,
I'm not a
something like that.
psychologist.
Like you're kind of exhausted. Your brain's not thinking correctly, but you're not at the point where you're just like quitting or not being able to physically work. Whereas burnout with crunch, that leads to burnout where like people can literally fall into a state of like, I can't go back to work today. Like I can't do this.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. So it's slightly different.
And I'm sure more studies and stuff like this are going to happen now. Like we
Yeah.
have this one from, was it HBR? Was that Harvard
Harvard Business Review, I think. Yeah.
Harvard Business Review. We have that. And so like that, I mean, it'll be interesting to see what else, because I mean, there's a bunch of studies that are, as far as I know, constantly coming out and obviously have come out about social media and its impacts. So it's,
yeah.
I wonder if, because we're starting to see like, some impacts from social media stuff, I wonder if there's going to be even more studies, like more rapid fire studies into the field of AI. If it's like, how is this affecting people?
I think there will be. There is a little bit of a caveat in that the current administration is very much suppressing and funding for studies like this due to the pressure from the AI CEOs. So I think there's going to be a little bit of a lag. We have to wait it out a little bit until we start seeing like a plethora of studies come out about the effects of AI. So it might be kind of like in a too late perspective. But
could you imagine like running a tech company, being like a person that's like, I'm going to make this AI thing, and you get, it catches on you and it ends up becoming a titan. Could you imagine having to switch your role from like being, I'm just going to call it a nerd CEO, where you're kind of like in with the developers and you're kind of being nerdy, getting into the code and stuff like this, to then being a person that has to look at the long-term political and like other, you're fighting politics in America and in Europe, and you're trying to make face with the people, and you're also trying to keep face with your employees. Could you imagine from person that is in charge but working on the code to, I need to worry about X country's new law that's coming out? What a crazy change.
Yeah, I mean, it was happening with like even pre-AI, like with Facebook. I read a book where they had a whole political arm inside of Facebook to try to, make it so that they have better favor with countries that have blocked them and stuff like that. Like there was this, you generate a God complex. That's how I see it, because these tech CEOs see themselves as way above the political system, as far as I understand, due to the fact that they're not elected. Like they're much, much more stagnant. So they see like, 5 presidents within their one CEO reign. And that makes them think that they have much more influence and power due to the situation that they put themselves in. So it's a very weird psychological thing that they must go through to steer the company in so many weird directions and align themselves with so many different political avenues. I don't know. To me, it's just like not worth it. Like I don't see why you would ever want to put yourself through that. Like, especially after you've already made the ridiculous amounts of money that you've made. Like what is the purpose of you going at the next stage? I never understood that, but I think it's a power complex. I think it's back to like, you feel powerful and you want to continue that feeling, and you think you can change things for the better a lot of times. Like I do, I do believe in like the the you can't attribute to malice what you can attribute to stupidity and all the other razors that are relevant to this, where like these people I think are trying to do the right thing, at least some of them. And the inevitability is that even if they're trying to do the right thing, they have to step on other people's toes to get there, and other people's, it could be entire societies, and that they're willing to do that to get to like whatever end goal that they think is right. Like it's the right thing in their own head, right? Like it's not necessarily the right thing for the world. I don't know. We're getting a little bit.
Well, I mean, it's the end of the episode, to be fair.
Yeah,
this
for
is
sure.
we're getting tangential, but at the end,
Yeah.
at least. I mean, it's, I don't know. It's an interesting. Maybe this will be a web news someday or something that we talk about if we like actually write down some details and stuff like this. Because what a man! Like I'll tell you now, someone pays me $100 million, like I'm gone, man.
That's what I mean.
It's,
Like
it's over.
Imagine, why would you continue to grind it out with all the political adversaries and potential dangerous situations that you put yourself in because you're trying to change the world? When you have that amount of capital, like I think it requires some sort of mental, I don't want to say illness, but
Well,
it's a
persona. It's a persona, or it's a need. I've heard people say that, some CEOs get their jollies from the game itself. They're not in, so it doesn't matter whether the game is political or technical. It's just like, I'm just here for the game. Whereas, I mean, I don't want to say I'm just here for the money, but I mean, if someone paid me $100 million, I suddenly will be there for the money. I can see myself still doing stuff though. Like obviously I'd probably podcast somewhere, or I'd mess around and stuff like that, but it would be like Matt runs a company that sells charging cables now, like it would be so low key. It'd just be like, what's the political implication of this? To be like, they asked us to switch from copper to a new metal, and I said, okay.
No, I'm almost guaranteeing you, if you all of a sudden woke up with $100 million, you would be trying to build out the next BlackBerry competitor or something like that.
Keyboard phone would be sick.
That's what I mean. Like, I think you would do some ridiculous tech product that you could kind of bear yourself into like solely for yourself.
That's
like,
true.
Just make it directly for yourself, and then like if the company wants to keep selling it, they can keep selling it.
Make another $100 million, leave again.
yeah. There's part of that. Like you can be in that mindset of like making stuff for yourself and enjoy that part. So I wouldn't like sit on my laurels, and I wouldn't like sit and do nothing. I would for sure do things. It would just be a completely different landscape. Like I would very actively try to avoid doing things that would put myself into a political crosshair. That's the thing I know 100% I would not do. And that's what the tech CEOs apparently don't care about. I don't know. Like, it's weird.
It's just, I guess the game is the game for them. Let me be clear. First order of business, get 100 million or something like that, I'm going to bed. I've told my friends this, like, I am going to bed. No one bother me. Phone is off. I'm in bed for a few days.
Yep.
And then I'll figure out what to do.
Yep.
But I think that's it. That's this episode. Hope you liked the episode and the tangents and things like that. I mean, it's been great. We've been publishing a lot of clips lately and stuff, which has been fun. A lot of people have been on there liking, disliking, commenting, watching. It's been really cool to see. If you ever want us to cover anything specific, or if you have any comments about this episode, please let us know in the comments. You can comment on Spotify. You can also comment on YouTube, as well as Podbean and a few other places. We monitor the Spotify and the YouTube more so. Not perfectly, though. I do definitely miss some comments, unfortunately, so I do apologize for that. But if you want to support episodes like this, you can do so on Patreon. That's patreon.com/HTML, all the things. And many thanks to these $3 tier patrons: Tim from the Web Hacker on thewebhacker.com, Jason from Geek Life Radio via geekliferadio.com, Garrett Segal, Level Up Financial Planning via www.levelupfinancialplanning.com, Magnus from YesWeb via yesweb.se, Syntaxify from the HTML All the Things Discord server, and Stacy Mosteler from the website swoonworthydesigns.com. And remember that we have an up to 20% off Scrimba link. You can go and check that out. Get a Scrimba Pro plan, play with their interactive media player code editor to learn how to code front end, back end, and all the good stuff. Some CSS, all that stuff. You can go and check that out. Link is in the show description and in the show notes on htmlallthethings.com, with full details in the show notes on htmlallthethings.com. And last but not least, I'd like to give a shout out to Michael LaRocca, contributing author on htmlallthethings.com. Michael is the author of Self-Taught the X Generation blog at selftaughttxg.com. Feel free to leave a comment or review in the platform that you are listening to this on, and we are signing off.